My name is Asad, and I am a Pakistani-born Canadian who moved to Canada when he was 13 years old. It was 2001 when my family decided to come to Canada, and at that time, that's a difficult time for anybody with a Muslim background to come to Canada because of the events that had happened in 9/11. And during that time, you know, it was I faced a very difficult sort of time in high school and in meeting people and trying to find my sense of community and belonging in this new world. But as time went by and I found some people that were like-minded, I was able to find my first sort of sense of community in a cricket league. And through that, I ended up, you know, going to school for engineering, where I met my first sort of core friends and got my engineering degree and started working as a full-time engineer. During this time, I had never thought that I would do music full-time, which is what I do now for a living. I make music full-time and I tour to play shows around the world. And it was actually towards the end of my degree at UBC that I met a friend at a gas station who asked me if I wanted to come DJ for his dad's company at weddings and events. At the time, I actually didn't even know what a DJ was, but I was very curious about finding out because I've always loved music. I grew up listening to a lot of music because of my mother's taste in music. My mom is a big fan of Pakistani classical music, so the likes of Nusrat and the likes of Ada Parveen were always playing in our house, and I think as a child you're kind of just learning through osmosis when you're in that presence. So when DJing came into my world and I started mixing beats, it was a lot of fun, and I did really well in the Punjabi wedding industry in the Lower Mainland, which is predominantly Indian, and I was playing mostly Bhangra music at these events, which I loved, but I found myself listening to music I grew up listening to on the drives home. So on the drive home I was listening to, you know, the Nusrats and the Ada Parveens and the Ar-Rahmans of the world, which was the music that I grew up listening to. And at that time, I was working full-time as an engineer, and the DJing was just a side hobby. I never thought it would become my full-time career. But there was an innate sense of dissatisfaction. मैं पूरा अंदर से खुश नहीं था अपनी job के साथ, और मैं जानता था कि I needed to make music that was music I really enjoyed playing, not just music that the crowd enjoyed playing. क्योंकि जब आप शादी वगैरह पे DJ कर रहे होते हैं, आप म्यूज़िक की concentration आपकी ये होती है कि जितने लोग अटेंडेंस में हैं उनके लिए आप म्यूजिक बजा रहे होते हैं, आप अपना टेस्ट नहीं एक्सप्रेस कर रहे होते. And I really wanted to express my own musical taste. So from there I decided that I'm going to see if I can learn how to make music. And actually छोटे होते I didn't have any classical music training, और मैंने कभी ज़िंदगी में कोई इंस्ट्रूमेंट नहीं बजाया. So I was a little bit worried that I might be starting a little too late and it might be difficult for me to learn. But over the last 4 or 5 years, I've worked really hard, and I'm trying to create this sound that blends my Pakistani heritage and the sounds of my roots with modern-day bass and electronic music. And the electronic music influence came from going to my first couple of music festivals. And the first time I went to a music festival and I saw a DJ playing in front of 10,000 people and really expressing art that he had created, I was really moved by that, and I really wanted to make sure that I spend some time trying to achieve that same goal for myself, where I can take, you know, a little sample from a Junoon song from the 90s in Pakistan and then flip it into a remix that I can play at a big festival in North America. I think the Pakistani and Indian sort of musical influences that I grew up listening to allowed me to build a palette that helped me pick the sounds that I really liked. I think वो आपका एक taste develop हो जाता है जिसके अंदर आपको समझ आनी शुरू होती है कि ये वाली आवाज़ और ये वाले percussion की आवाज़ और ये वाली bass की आवाज़ इकट्ठे एक खूबसूरत composition बना सकते हैं. And I think you don't really have to go and study music classically for that. I think that becomes more of a instinct if you pay attention to music enough and if you allow yourself to learn. So over the last 2 or 3 years, I live in Surrey in British Columbia, and I've been working on creating music that blends electronic music production with Eastern classical music and Eastern Pakistani and Indian music. So I just released my first EP last year in September, which led to some great opportunities. I did a couple of official remixes for A.R. Rahman, who's one of my inspirations as a musician. And my dream now is to take more Pakistani and Indian sounds that are very close and dear to me, especially the Pakistani sounds, because I think our community is underrepresented in the electronic music world in general. You know, there isn't a Pakistani electronic producer or DJ who's playing mainstream electronic music festivals, whereas there's, you know, music producers and DJs from all over the world, including India. You know, you have guys like Nuclear from India who are playing big festivals like EDM in the United States, like EDC, sorry. So I think that for me it's really important to take my Pakistani heritage and my sound and compile it and represent that on a mainstream stage.
Are you looking for a townhouse? Now is your opportunity to own a gorgeous townhouse in Surrey starting at $649. This includes 3 to 4 bedrooms with a double garage and a beautiful landscape. To book these townhouses or for any other real estate needs, please call Amjad Bajwa from Sudden Alliance at 604-825-2277.
This picture is really special because I'm sure कि ज़्यादातर लोग recognize कर लेंगे कि ये Abbey Road है और इसके ऊपर Beatles का एक बहुत ज़बरदस्त उनका बहुत popular एक album cover था जिसके अंदर walk कर लेते हैं across. And Beatles obviously Western world के musical legends हैं, and that's, you know, if you live in North America or if you live in Europe or basically anywhere in the world, you see this picture and you associate it with the legendary Beatles. But this was actually a gift that was given to me. जिसके अंदर, you know, our lives are, we're North American as it gets. You know, I've been here for almost 20 years, and I don't think that it's fair that the legends that we associate with are only considered legends in the part of the world that we have left. So my friends actually, knowing me and knowing that that's my philosophy, put Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan and Abda Parveen on the same road. And I think that's kind of a metaphor for my own career, is that yes, I'm Pakistani and yes, I was born there, and I'm, you know, I'm very patriotic about my roots, but I live in North America, and I think I want our music and my music and music of anybody who wants to express themselves to belong on the biggest North American stages, irrespective of whether they are, you know, Caucasian or East Indian or Pakistani or whatever their race might be. I think music doesn't really have to be bounded by race, and so that's why this picture is very special to me. It was given to me on my birthday last year, and my friends ended up putting, you know, 2 musicians who I really look up to on the same road as the Beatles, and I think that's really special. This Nusrat painting, there's only 100 of these that exist in the world, and this artist ne ye banayi thi. He actually came to one of my shows, and right after my show he gave it to me, and this is one of the most special gifts I've ever received. So it's a beautiful portrait of Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. And I will show you my studio. So I have a setup in my house. This is where I do most of my work. This is my studio. Most of the music I make is on this computer. With modern day technology, you don't necessarily need to have all the instruments and stuff in one room. Like I said, I don't play any instruments, so I'm producing most of my music on that computer. And you were seeing some of these panels on the wall and hanging from the ceiling. They're done for sound isolation, so I can make music here without disturbing my family upstairs. And that's also really important because I'm usually here sometimes 4 or 5 in the morning making music, and I want to make sure I'm not disturbing everybody else. But yeah, this is where I spend most of my time and create most of my music, and I'll play you guys some of the stuff. So most of the music I make tends to be either instrumental or I use samples, vocal samples that are, you know, traditional boliyan or traditional lyrics of Pakistani or Indian music. So one of the songs that I made last year was called Turya Turya. That was the most popular track on my EP. Or agar uska, you know, all I started with was just this sample of the vocal. So now, you know, when you have just that sample and you have to turn it into a EDM song, you have to write the rest of the song. So you have to write the bass line, the drums, the kick, the snare. So basically, you know, with this song, I just started with that sample. और ये बहुत popular folk बोली है जो अपने पाकिस्तान इंडिया के पंजाब के region में, especially celebrations वगैरह में काफी use होती है. तो उसके अंदर, you know, I took that and we wrote the bass line. और उसके अंदर अपनी जो है क्या नाम है उसकी drums वगैरह में लिखे हैं. So now that same sample was turned into this song and it sounds like this. You know, I really like to build anticipation going into the big drop because going to festivals, at the EDM festivals, like that's the drop is the big release. That's what everybody's looking for. So building tension, building into that. That's a very quick sort of breakdown of sort of one of the songs that I made. And that's the other thing I like to do is with my music, I like to just highlight some things that I think are social topics of discussion that should be brought up. In the video that we made for this song, if you watch the video on YouTube, you actually, the concept is that, you know, in our culture, most of the time it's the men that are doing, it's the women that are doing all of the work in the household, and men are doing most of the work outside, especially culturally in Pakistan and India. But one of the things that I thought was a little bit unfair, and this is, you know, being at home and watching my mom, was that my mother, for example, is a very social person and she doesn't really have much of a social life here, and she doesn't go out with her friends and stuff as much as I think she would like to. So when we're making this video, I really wanted to highlight the fact that the females that are like the aunties in our culture need to have more fun and need to go and express themselves more artistically and meet with their friends and you know, have fun and all that stuff. So in the video, we actually reverse the roles. We have this gentleman who's serving the chai at home, and the aunties are sitting there, you know, and the gentleman brings the chai, and the aunties then decide, get a text saying that, hey, there's a party that Khanvict's playing and we're all gonna go and dance and have fun, and the men are supposed to stay home and look after the kids and clean. So the video looks a little bit like this. There's like a little discussion in the beginning. You know, they've gotten a text, and you see that there's a male serving the chai, so we reverse those roles.
Chandan, remember no sugar in mine, no?
And then, you know, those dialogues are all things that mostly the men will say, like, you know, chai mein chini kam hai, or chai mein ye kam hai, or whatever it is. So I really wanted to highlight that it needs to be a bit more fair.
It's cold. It's so cold. Hey.
And now there she gets a text.
It's an invite for tonight. Shall we go? Party time.
So then, you know, they goes in the party.
Why are you looking at the cell all the time?
Look at the baby monkey.
Oh my gosh. Ah, chai. Chandan, you remembered no sugar in mine, no?
And soy, you put soy milk in mine, right? Chandan, I don't want to have allergic reaction.
And
Hey, please reheat.
I know, it's cold. It's so cold. Hey, look, it's an invite for tonight. Shall we go? Party time.
Ladies' night, okay?
Yes, okay. Bye, Chandan.
Have fun.
Wait up front.
I collect some of my favorite musicians' vinyl records, and this is two of the greatest sitar and sarod players of the world, Ravi Shankar and Ali Akbar Khan. Ali Akbar Khan's family, of course, is you know, god-like status in Indian classical music, and his son Alam Khan, who's now a friend, is somebody I'm collaborating with. He lives in San Francisco, and he's a phenomenal sarod player. So this is a great record that I'm really proud of finding. Jimi Hendrix is obviously a classical Western musician, and this is one of his best works. So this album has been a really big influence in my life. Bob Marley, of course, Pink Floyd. South Indian flute music. Bansuri and flute is you know, that's one of my favorite instruments, and I explore old flute samples from these records that I can use and flip in my remixes. This is another one of Ravi Shankar from Monterey, 1967. Ravi Shankar was, of course, one of the first people from South Asian descent to play mainstream festivals and do it in North America. So this is a really special, there's actually a really special video on this on YouTube of him playing this set. Some more Pink Floyd, and last but definitely not least, the great Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan again. He's obviously a huge inspiration of mine, and I have his work and his discography is just saved away, and that's the music I listen to in my own downtime. This other song I made called Searching For You, I just had a sarangi sample. For example, sounds like this. So I took that sample and I turned it into almost like a house track, like this, you know. And then it has a small folk Punjabi sample of vocal. So the vocal is saying Ave Kamahide, which is, you know, the name of the song is Searching For You, and those are sort of the subtle connections I try to make where I am appealing to the mainstream audience but also being true to my Pakistani and sort of South Asian heritage. But most of my time is spent here. It's you know, you spend 1 or 2 hours on stage in front of thousands of people, and that seems like it's a very glorified job, but a lot of your time is actually spent alone by yourself trying to create music and trying to just finesse minor details about making the song sound as good as it can. As far as the future is concerned, I have a album, my first album that comes out in September. Inshallah, I've you know, strong hopes for that one. I think with that album I should be able to get a few more tours and a few more mainstream sort of festival gigs that I want to play, and then I'm working on another EP with a friend of mine. His name is Raginder. He lives in San Francisco, sorry, in Los Angeles, and he's a phenomenal violin player. Actually, I'll play you one of the songs I made with him. We just finished this one. This one hasn't come out, but we'll show you guys a little preview, and this is just about to come out in about a month or so. Like, yeah, so I can't give away more than that one because it hasn't come out yet, but that one I'm really excited for. I think that one will do really well, and Raginder is a very talented instrumentalist, and he's somebody who I actually used to really look up to even 2 years ago, and I'm a huge fan of his work, and I still really look up to him. But I just think that it's amazing that you can look up to somebody 2 years ago and then 2 years later you're making music with them. I think that's really special. The Province and Vancouver Sun just last week did a full page spread on my career, which was really special. I think the best thing about this was watching my dad taking pictures of the newspaper and sending it to his family in Pakistan. I think anytime your work is recognized, it's a good feeling. But for me, the number one thing is when my parents find pride in my musical accomplishment. Because, you know, my father is he's an engineer, and he comes from a very academic background. So when I was leaving my engineering career to do music full time, I was a bit worried about whether I will have his blessings. So when he looks at my musical work with pride, that gives me a lot of confidence and comfort in knowing that he's supportive of my work. We just had our first sold-out show in January in Vancouver at the Imperial, and inshallah the next goal is to have the next show at the Commodore Ballroom, which is an iconic Vancouver venue. I don't think that a Pakistani DJ or producer has ever sold out, let alone played at the Commodore Ballroom. I know that the great Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan has performed in Vancouver back in the day, but I believe that was at Queen Elizabeth Theatre. So I would love to be able to do a show at the Commodore Ballroom and sell that out, and I hope to see more of the Pakistani community, the younger Pakistani community at that show, because I think they will resonate with the sounds that I'm creating, in addition to the Indian community, whose support has actually been quite strong for me over the last 10 years. I'm grateful for everything that they have been able to provide for the platform that I've built and been a part of. And basically my routine is that I am very lucky I get to do what I love now. I wake up and I'm in the studio usually by 8, 9 in the morning, and I get to create compositions and music that I love. And once the music is all created and it's time to play the shows, then I like to go on the road and play those sets sort of around the world. In addition to creating the music, one thing I'm really passionate about is creating the overall experience at the shows. So that is, you know, when you go to a show, it's so much more than just the musician. It's the lighting, it's the lasers, it's the special effects, it's the production quality that really immerses the audience into an experience that is